Grande. All right.
All right, have a seat, everybody. Oh. Welcome, everybody. This is a pretty good crowd for this time of year. Is everything good in the booth? Yeah, we're good? Okay. So I found Giacomo from basically Instagram, from looking at different artists that were around Hackney. I just moved to Hackney, basically, and had been following Giacomo for a while, really loved the street art, loved the kind of vibrant nature of his work, explored it, was just thinking, wow, it'd be so cool to meet up with Giacomo. And then on a walk, I found that he actually has a storefront in Clapton called Bodega Gallery. And I was like, whoa, this is bizarre. This is the guy that I've been, going from the virtual to the real, which happens.
You didn't tell me this story
Yeah,
before.
I didn't actually tell you.
That.
But from the virtual to the real, and then I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I stopped in.
That's a bodega, my shop.
And that's the bodega. If you know where Clapton is, Hackney, if you know that area, yeah, you can take a look at and drop in and have a chat. But anyway, without further ado, and also there's lots of street art in that area that's also by Giacomo. But this is great for you guys who are designers, illustrators, animators. This is, inspirational work. Your work doesn't always have to be on the page, on the screen. It can go out and be in the street. And weirdly, one of the growing sort of trends in urban spaces is urban art, work that is out there in the street, engaging with people in different ways. And as we know, in the past probably 10 years, street art has really gained a lot of attention globally. So without further ado, Giacomo Run.
Thank you. Thank you, Luis. Thank you guys for being here. I'm very excited. I'm very lucky and very happy to be here. I've been thinking how to start such a conversation with you. I would have never imagined this environment, this space. We always imagine something different from what reality is. And while I was imagining and thinking how to start or what to tell you, I always thought, I'm going to tell them first the year that I was born. Not because I want to start from there, step by step, getting to today, but just to picture a person born in 1979, like me. It's someone that is kind of used to make things with his own hands, basically, and do things on their own in some sort of way. So I'm going to contradict myself so many times today. I'm going to say something and then say the opposite, but just don't worry, try to follow me, because everything is true, but also false. Most frequent question, when did you start painting or when did you start drawing? I will start with drawing, because drawing is the basic and the starting point of my practice, and drawing is very important for everything. I used to have a teacher when I was 14 years old, which was probably one of the four or five teachers, very important teacher for me, which I had, which they weren't for a long time, maybe for 1 year only, or maybe for a few lessons, but the teacher or the master, how do you want to call it, which is not me, but he often stays with you for all your life. And this teacher told us, we were a class, a little bit like you, same number. He says, guys, that was a bit exaggerated, but that's what he says. Guys, there's only two entities, two people that draws, which is, one is God and one is us. And we were like, wow. We were like, I was 14 years old. But the concept that he wanted to say is that everything around us, everything and anything has been drawn before. Like if you think about like a screw that keeps together this chair, or your glasses or your computer chip or anything, your headphone has been drawn before with a pencil probably, before getting into a screen and getting into software, etc. So for me the practice of drawing is the starting point and is very important. And if I could give you an advice, if you don't do it already, which I hope you do, have always with you a pencil and a sketchbook, because it's going to make your life much better and easier, especially if you work in the creative industry. I'm sure that you do it already. Anyway, going back to that kind of years, I jumped quickly to what it took me to do street work, skateboarding, rap music, so hip-hop, social center, which we call a social center in Italy. Now, unfortunately, they kind of disappeared, but social center, in England you call it squats mainly, but it also is a different type of place. So social center, they were like empty spaces in the urban environment, so abandoned primary school or hospital or post office, where people like you, your age, and my age now, we could basically get into this place and take care of this place. And those places, they were very important because they were like a hub of culture, music, party. We had a lot of party, we had a lot of graffiti, we had a lot of anything that it can be in your interest. And it wasn't a place that was asking you money or like, you know, like tickets or stuff like this, but they were asking you time, love and respect and looking after each other. So I must say that I was very lucky that in the era where I grew up, we had those places. So those things which I listed, so skateboarding, hip-hop, those places, social center, squats, they built up in me like a new, me and all my fellow at the time, a new kind of culture, which wasn't on screen and it wasn't on TV very much, because we invented it. We invented a little brick that made all these things happen, and which wasn't called, it wasn't called street art at the time. Street art is it's a name that have to be created by, probably by the market, by the art market, or by publishing, or by the media, just to put everything under one roof and call it with one name, which is more practical. So we didn't, I always talk in plural because it's easier not to have all the attention on you. But it is also true that I wasn't on my own. I was with a bunch of other kids, which we all had our characteristic way of doing things, passion. We all had a way to express ourselves with painting, because that's what was our intent. That's what we wanted to do, painting. And sorry, I forgot to mention graffiti before, because graffiti is when it came together with rap music, hip-hop, skateboarding. But graffiti, I wasn't never really good at using the spray can. I never been good. I didn't like this competition of tagging, or, you know, like having like your neighbor, and the train line and doing trains and stuff like this. I was into it a little bit, but it just didn't come naturally to me. So I insisted and insisted a little bit, but then I just gave up graffiti because I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it and I wasn't good at it. So I was lucky enough to have friends which they skipped the spray can tools straight away, and we used brushes and paint, which also it was kind of more easy to find because, you know, at our age at that time, it's not always that you got money to spend, or also there wasn't the environment that you got today, all the brand of spray and blah, blah, blah. So I won't mention spray can anymore because it's really hasn't been part of my life. So all those abandoned places that we were able to get into, we've been painting them inside. We were, can I say, breaking inside the place they were abandoned. There was a sort of illegal element on it, and slightly, maybe sometimes dangerous. But, well, here I am 25 years later telling you. So all those abandoned places, which they were just the product of like an economic depression of those here. So a lot of factory abandoned and schools because they changed it to another school, etc. They gave us the opportunity of having all this massive blank canvas where we could go and find a new place week after week and do our painting. At the time, obviously, none of us, not me, have ever thought that this practice of painting it would have become an actual profession one day, which actually it did. And even if I must be honest with you, after all this year and after been traveling all over the world, after been building up to an exhibition in Los Angeles or in London or anywhere else, sometimes I still thinking, what the hell I'm doing? In the sense that we have all around us a lot of, even the creative industry, which is made by employers and commission and deadline and this and that. But sometimes when you work with art, you are a bit on your own, let's say, in this sea of commercial stuff and money and boss and desk and offices. And you're thinking, well, is art something that comes only from like the inspiration of looking at like a landscape, or looking at the sea, or looking at a person? I mean, how much is the poetry and the art and the production have to do together, one with another? I mean, is the artist always work and always paint and always draw because he's inspired, or because he has to pay the bill at the end of the month? So it's everything in that, like this big pot that we need to understand how much is part of our life and how much is part of our career, or that we want to pursue in our life. So by now, at the point of my discussion, I am pretty much around 2000, 2005, when I was already a painter. I was already being paid time to time to do some commission, to do some important or less jobs. Having said this, maybe I can show you what I'm talking about in picture. Yeah, like for example, this one, this is a very important image for me because this is a collaboration between me and another artist which was painting with me. We both influenced each other. We both grew up with each other. Coming from the street art, coming from, let's say, like a nature of graffiti, because they both kind of are born together as artistic currents. So we or I, or we, we used to choose names which they were pseudonym of our names, because for the illegal element of it, also for the fun of it, to create like a character that you are, that it was hidden inside you somewhere, and you want to just take it out and write something about it, or draw something about it. So in this particular painting, for example, this image has been made by a friend called Blue, B-L-U, and this one was me. Oops. And that one, and the other one. Okay, yeah. We both used the same paint, which was like a big pot of white, which we found, plus we had some red, because that's what we had. And so we did this painting, which, as you can see, was just on top of like a big glass door, which we found in an abandoned place, which was no longer abandoned because we took it over, not just me and him, but another 100 of people. And we've been in that place for 7 years, doing party, doing workshop. We built, or someone built like a massive skate park on it. There was a screen print studio. There was a kitchen, there were people living there, and etc., etc. So those places, they were alive, and we were making it more alive than ever, painting them. You can skip if you want. I don't know exactly what comes after, but those are all, yeah, this is exactly the same thing in another place. The one before it was in Florence, in Tuscany. And this one is a place called Strike, which only recently shut down, and it was in Rome. It was a very big, important place in Rome. This is also is another collaboration. So what I loved of those times, and what I still love nowadays, is collaborating with artists. Because from another artist you can learn a lot, you can be inspired so much, and you know, when there is no much ego between people, then you can also kind of collaborate in the sense that you melt each other into one image, which you potentially can become stronger. My art always been figurative. One of the most frequent questions is, what inspired you? What does inspire you? I'm inspired by human figure. I'm inspired by theater. I'm inspired by dance. And also I'm very, very much inspired by a difference of the human being. So different features of the face. I'm very attracted by indigenous faces, and maybe because I grew up in the 80s in a small town in this east side of Italy, on the seaside, which we were all very much the same. I mean, we were all very much white, Caucasian, or how you want to call them. And so for me, it's always been like an attraction for my eyes. To see people that they were coming from other places like Scandinavia or North Africa or East Asia or anywhere else that was me, basically. This is a painting that is in North Italy, in South Italy, and I did it once when I was in holiday with my friend. So I always used to travel at some point, not for painting, but with paint, and always kind of trying to leave a mark where I was going, until to a certain point where, and this is after 2010, I only traveled to paint. So this one sometimes, for people that works, that they have like like an everyday job, and they work in an office. Maybe that sounds a bit arrogant, because if you work in an office, maybe when you are in holiday, you just want to be in holiday, or you want to read your book on the beach or next to a swimming pool, whatever. So, well, I don't want to sound arrogant when I say I prefer to travel with my brushes and painting, because for a few reasons. One, for example, is that when you visit a culture or a place, and you go there to work, you get much more in a deeper conversation with the place and with the people that they come from that place. Like, for example, when I went to China the last time, I had to deal with people that they were setting up scaffolding, or they were renting like cherry picker, or I had to go and buy tons of liters of paint, and this is obviously doesn't happen if you visit a country just for visiting and to see the marvelous place, things that this country has. We can skip those, much quicker. The last two pictures, those are, for example, are a bit like different from, this is a picture from 2004. Wow. This one was, for example, the first time that me and my colleagues, painter, we've been invited, paid ticket and hotel to travel and to go and paint somewhere else. I think they even gave us a small fee to do this. But this one, for example, it was inside a big graffiti jam in North Italy, near Germany almost. And we were the only people painting with brushes. Well, everyone else was like a graffiti writers, and was not. This one is another painting, another collaboration with a good friend of mine, Dem, which I did. This one was in Turin. This is another painting that I did in Florence, also many years ago. This one, for example, I was already into some sort of commissioned mode from public entity like the council of this town, or working in the public art environment, let's call it. This one is again like it's in another social center. This is much more recent. This is like, I think, 2015 or something like that. So my art, for example, has never been political, explicitly political. Like, for example, if you take Banksy, which is the most famous British street artist, there's always like some sort of political statement in what he does. Some people do, some people does it more than him, some people doesn't do it at all. I think a political is already the act of placing your art in the public space. Because I always think, I mean, nobody asking me or you if we like to have an advert about like a Xbox video game or like a pair of trousers from Guess or whatever. So an image, a picture that I place on the public space is a bit like me saying, well, this is me, this is unique, it's not an advert. And it's an expression of a person that wants to take over the public space. Again, there's a lot of controversy talking about this, because who am I to take over the public space? But at the same time, I don't feel like a victim, but at the same time, nobody asking me if I want to see what I see every day on the tube train or on the bus. So that's another collaboration. Maybe I put too many pictures in this folder of old stuff. this is again is the inside of a place where people do raves, music and art and anything else. You can skip. Blue is Italian, yeah. No, no, blue is Italian. Blue, for example, you should, if some of you do animation, you should check Blue work because he's one of the first people to animate images on walls. So he was painting a frame, delete it, paint another one, so creating stop frames on the wall. Obviously, once I was talking to him and he says, well, because he did a long animation, long as 10 minutes, so quite long. He produced it on the walls of building in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. And he was saying, obviously I can't do such a thing in London, for example, because the paint will dry in ages. And for me to do like 10 frames, it was going to take me a month. But in a place where the paint on the wall dries straight away, you can do like maybe several a day. Anyway, this one, for example, we get in a bit more into a recent work of mine, which is a commission that I had with the Marrakesh Biennale of Art, which is a big art event which they started in Venice, the Biennale of Venice, you should know it. And then many other countries like Dakar, Senegal, or Tokyo, or Russia, they have their own Biennale, which is every 2 years, and they call like hundreds of artists to do work or to exhibit their work. So this one, I don't know if the next picture will show you the. So I've been asked to paint a picture on this square, which is called Moula Hassan Square in Morocco, in Essaouira. And it's very important, I want to say that the painting, it wouldn't have been something that would have stayed there for ages, but it would have, it has been thought to be something very temporary. And thank God, because I'm nobody to go in a country which I don't have nothing to do with, like Morocco, and take over for a long time one of the square, or the main square of the town, where everyone gather every year for events, or every day almost. This town is next to the ocean, so the painting that I did, he only stayed for a couple of months, because then he's been naturally wiped off by the weather and the rain and the water. I also want to say for this image, which later actually I can show you a very nice video which is on YouTube. I didn't have any technology to do it, so, well, I use like a Google Earth satellite, but that's something that it's on the hands of everyone. We can look on Google Earth. So, if I can explain you, for example, quickly, like a technique that I invented by myself. It was like, I was in this square, which is like 80 meters by 80 meters, so it's a big square. And I went to Google Earth, I took a picture of the square, I did a photocopy, and then I had the square in my hand, basically. So I drew the sketch on the photocopy on top of the square. Then if you see, I don't know if I can get close, that building on the corner of that square, that was the highest point where I could get to see my canvas, let's call it, from above. Obviously, I wasn't on top of the canvas, I was on the side of the canvas. So then I used two walkie-talkie, and with the walkie-talkie, I was on the tower there, and my friend, which also is the video maker of the video I will show you later, he was going around on the square, and with me talking with him, I was asking him to place a dot on the floor wherever he was. So then I did like the game that you have on those journal, no? That you put together the dot and then I compose the sketch. So it was kind of half analog and half with this sort of remote technology that I had, but I didn't have any drone or anything else like this. No, this is just to say that there is always a way around things. Obviously, you can use the top of the technology to do something, or you can do it very much with your own, in your own way. This one, for example, is a picture of the painting, let's say, almost finished, which we did with a drone, because at the last day, when I finished the painting, they called this guy with a drone, which was one of the only one in Morocco to have a flying machine like that, and he took some picture and he also helped us with the video. This one, sorry, there was a sort of concept on the picture before, let's say a message. Everyone, when you do a mural, they want to know the message of a painting, the message. And it's fair to ask, but at the same time, doesn't not only have to be a message. In this case, it was in 2015, and there was a lot of people which they still fleeing away from Africa or to the coast of North Africa to come to Europe for many reasons. And so, but in that time it was so much discussed. It was so much discussed. Now it's less discussed, but not because it doesn't happen anymore. A lot of people unfortunately die in the Mediterranean. A lot of people now comes to England, crossing the Channel and blah, 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 which is a very, very big issue. But at the time, so I just wanted to talk about this and those two people standing in two different shores of the world, basically. And also there was a little element which is, it's not very visible here because the picture is a bit small over there, but there was also another backstory, which is in this square, every May, they do a festival, a music festival, which is it's called Ginawa Festival. Ginawa is a type of music from North Africa, so from Mali to Eritrea to Morocco, and it's a very tribal music. It's nice, but it's very tribal. And in this square, in May they do a festival, so the square is filled up with people, and there's a big stage at some point there. And this music is particular because there is got an instrument which is called the gibrin, which is the grandfather of the bass, basically. So before they invented the bass, and the bass became to be part of our rock music or funk or whatever music you want. In Africa, they had this instrument, which is only 3-string or 2, which is called gibrin, which is the point of connection between the drum and the guitar. Anyway, and this gibrin is in between the yellow hand that goes onto the river, and is a sort of, it functions almost like a bridge between the two shores. Anyway, it was a bit of a strange concept, but I managed to finish the painting. This is just a scan that I took from a newspaper. A newspaper that it was in my hometown. So I come from a town which is 120,000 people. Actually, I come from a village near this town. So 120,000 people comparing to where we live is nothing. It's just a little town. So that's why every time that I visit there to do a project, every day I'm in the first or second page of the local newspaper because it doesn't take much. I mean, it's when you do like painting like a big infrastructure or a wall which is predominant in the city, Of course, people want to talk about it because also, I mean, they don't have anything else to talk about. I don't know. So this is part of this wall, which I just showed you before on the newspaper, which is a tunnel. That's my mother, actually. And this has been like a big deal, big job. It took me 2 months. April, I did one side, and then July last year, I did the other side because the tunnel's got 2 sides. It's been very discussed. Obviously, my techniques and the way I do painting, it changes. It's constantly changing, and it changed in the last 20 years. Because I see things, I read, I go and visit countries, I speak with people, I'm influenced, and I hope that you are influenced by anything, basically, because we are like sponges, no? Like, it's not about copying, but it's about being open and curious. That's very, very important. That's another wall. This is, for example, it was a bit more like a commercial, commission for a company that makes protheses of life, basically titanium bones, which is an Italian company, but they have branches all over the world. So they asked me to paint one of their factory in North Italy and one other factory that they have in Wuxi, which is near Shanghai. And yeah, this one is one of my favorite painting, and is in London. Actually, it used to be in London. And it used to be not because they cover it, but because the building is completely gone now, because they are redeveloping everything. And so that's often happen. They give you to paint a building or a wall when the wall is destined to be redeveloped, which is what it is. I mean, it is a bit like a bad thing, because you know that your painting is not going to be there forever, but then nothing is there forever. So you just have to be happy with the ephemeral side of the street art, of the urban art. And Aspetta, if I can say another thing on the painting. The guy that you see under the foot of the big giant guy, he was the caretaker of the building. And this painting, I had 8 days to do it, but every day there was a delay and another delay and a problem and everything. I mean, to do such a painting, you need to have everything working and everything available in terms for you to be on the cherry picker, go up 35 meters and paint and do the sketch and everything. But every day there was a delay and another delay, because the organizer of this, it was a festival, because the festival is what we call a street art festival. So there's not necessarily like a festival with music. It's just an organization put together 10 artists, or 3 or 60. He organized the paint, he organized the locations, the permits to paint, cherry picker, hotel and everything. So he called people from all over the world, or from all over the country. People, the artists, they come there and they do what they have to do. So when this guy in South London, in Croydon, said, this is the biggest street art festival of the country, I invited 60 people. Straight away I thought, oh my God, it's going to be a mess, because in London to organize all these people is not easy. If you are in a small town, everyone has got the chance to guest you in the house of a friend, or, you know, it's much more easy. Things are much more cheaper and possible. So Anyway, this one from 8 days, the days reduced to 2.5 days where I had to complete the whole wall. This painting was titled The Thinker Child, because I thought there was a child thinking about the moon, about the sky, and about the universe. And one day, I remember, you see, this is something that I like to tell you, that when you do something, when you do a project, either it's an interesting project or less interesting, either it's very well paid or they just paid you the sandwich and the ticket to go where you need to go. I think the important is that you aim to, from this project, there's some other project they're gonna come out of it, because that's gonna keep your wheel spinning of your career, of your interest, of your passion. I mean, this is just what I discover of my life. That it's a really nice reward. It's not just the money today, but also something that's going to come out the next day or in the future by what you've done.
So we can kind of wrap it up in a bit.
All right.
Take a look at some of these quickly and then we'll watch the video.
Yeah, those the last 2-3 images is the first commission that I had with the Hackney Council after many years painting the street of Hackney. This is another painting. This is a wall which I took care in the last 10 years. I don't know who's the owner of the wall, but nobody ever bothered me while I painted. I painted it for about 10 times, maybe twice a year, maybe 1 time a year. And actually now people is expecting me to paint some more, which is very happy. This is a church which I painted in Peckham on scaffolding. Should we watch? Well, let's watch a video. And then maybe we have time for some question if you want to ask me any question. Should we watch that video of Essaouira on the square?
So the Marrakesh one?
Marrakesh, yeah.
Yeah?
The other one.
This one, yeah?
No, the other one.
The other one?
The other one. This is this one. We can start it from here. What I'm doing here, I'm changing the landscape.
questions?
Yes, please.
Hello, thank you for the talk. It was really inspiring. You mentioned China and Morocco. What other countries have you been commissioned to work in also?
I've been for example, in Poland, which was one of the first countries that I went to do a painting on a massive building. And then I went to France, to Moscow, Russia. I went to Los Angeles to do an exhibition in 2015. And then I went to, which was very, very important with me. I haven't been commissioned there, but I organized my own trip to go to Gambia and Senegal. And so I spent 40 days in Gambia, 40 days in Senegal, and I painted every day. And that was a very, very beautiful experience. And I was there in 2013. Yeah. And then a few other countries which I've been to Spain, for example, or to Croatia. Yeah, traveling is the best thing. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone who would want to try street art for the first time, considering, as you've said, like in your past experiences, you've gone to like abandoned warehouses, abandoned factories. Do you have any suggestions for like people who want to try it out for the first time who've never done it before?
Yes. Yes, you know, one good thing I forgot to tell you, if you work with art, like for example, imagine a painter, which is also what I do. You have a studio, you go in your studio, you paint, you don't know what to paint, you have a gallery that pays you money or not, but nobody sees your art unless you don't call the collector or the gallerist or your friend or whatever. But the good thing of street art is, for example, that your art is already on a window because it's on the street. People have to see it. And so that's a nice side of it, I think. To try, I'm not saying don't try at home. I'm saying always have the good sense of a person to do it where you know that I'm not saying you don't have to disturb anyone, because art is also sending something out there that potentially can disturb you, so you see it, so you change. But obviously don't ruin 2,000 years old Roman walls or Saxon walls or whatever. Or don't do it in the house of someone that's gonna get very pissed off with you. Do it, choose your place in the city that maybe is abandoned or forgotten, and you take care of that place. And then I dare someone tell you, oh, you can't do this here. I mean, you can't do it because of the law, but for our good sense of people, we live in a place, we want to have a better place, no? And we don't always have to expect the government or someone to do this place better for us. Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah? All right, last one.
Last one. Oh.
And then you can have a chat with
Ah, yeah.
for a little bit afterwards. You can take a look at his brushes, and he's got some books here as well.
Yeah.
I saw in your video there was a balloon seller that almost stepped over your artwork, and I'm sure, doing your street art, you must have so many interactions with the public. How does that intertwine with your process? Do you build a process of ignoring people when you paint, or do you is it part of feeding off of that, and is it interactive as you paint? How does that work as you make?
Well, that's a really good question, because you can't expect not to have interaction or no one disturbing you while you're creating. I mean, that's completely part of the process. And me, I always looking forward to have interaction. And I tell you more, the interaction sometimes it modifies your painting, it makes your painting almost. Because maybe you approach a wall, I mean, me, for example, I got this way of working. I do have an idea, I do sketch a lot and stuff, so I do have an idea for that wall, but the idea is always up for changing. And sometimes there is one person, one child with a mother or one old person, whoever that comes and gives you an hint, and that hint becomes very much part of the painting, because you're going to use it for, it's almost like someone give you an idea that you haven't thought about before. And that's how we roll. Yeah, it's very important. The interaction is fundamental, I think. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
If
Cool.
you want to have a chat, take a look at
Yeah.
kind of art materials. Got some books here. I'll be here for a little bit.
Yes. To